Hey, welcome to the next episode of Tearing Through the Roof, the podcast where life gets messy, friendships get real, and when the door is blocked, we make our own way to Jesus. Let's go. I'm your host, Jamie Carter. With me again is Mr. Heath McGoughey.
Hey,
Thank you for coming back.
glad to be back.
Didn't run you off the last time.
No, you didn't.
So I asked you to come back, and you said you would, and there you are. Here you are. So we got a new episode. Not real sure what all we're going to talk about on this episode, but I bet Jesus gets mentioned, and I bet he gets gets glorified out of it. But so last time you was here, we talked about your salvation experience. You was a kid, 11 years old, I think is what you said, and then got out of church, did your teenage year thing, and then your lovely bride, Mary Ann, y'all were dating and engaged probably, and she got you back into church and gave her a lot of credit for that.
I did.
Yeah. So it sounded to me, you said you grew up in a Christian home. Did your parents take you to church all the time?
They did.
Yeah.
They did.
The old saying, you had a drug problem when you were a kid, you were drugged to church every time.
Drugged to church.
Every time the doors were open. That was me. I tell people I was born on the second pew on the right-hand side at the little church in Truman. Let's talk about that for a second. It just popped in my head because I know I felt this way. When you were a teenager and you start making your own choices, your parents didn't make you go.
Mm-hmm.
Did them making you go when you were younger? Did that play a part in you like not going when sometimes?
Not so yes and no. You know, I went through my teenage years. It was probably after I graduated high school. You know, from there to 18 to 22 or you know, but
I remember, this is almost embarrassing to talk about, but it is kind of funny when you see the end result on it. But I always tell people I'm a Proverbs 22:6 child. You know, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he's old, you're not depart from it. But I remember as a teenager, probably 15, 16 years old, telling my mom that I couldn't believe she was making me go to church, that I was old enough to make my own decisions. And I said, you're so mean to me, making me go to church when I don't want to go. And I remember telling her, I said, when I get older and have my own kids, I'm going to let them make their own decision. I'm not going to drag them to church and force them to do anything they don't want to do. My mom just nodded her head and laughed. And, so I've got 4 kids, and all 4 of my kids have a drug problem. They're drugged to church every time the doors are open. That going back to, what you're raised on, yeah, they're going to be in church.
That's right.
I got a 27-year-old, and I'm on her all the time about coming to church. Are y'all coming to this morning? Where y'all going? Just making sure. So I'm sure you did the same thing to your kids, didn't you?
I did.
And so they're Proverbs 22:6 children too.
They are. They are.
Good deal. Well. I just glanced at you, and I just saw Ryan, your son. Y'all. I didn't realize how much y'all looked alike until I just looked at you, and I was like, "Holy cow, they look a lot alike!" Wow, that was totally unexpected. That was not part of the plan of the show, y'all. Sorry about that, but I just looked up and saw his son. That's wild. Anyway, so glad that you're back on the podcast, and so. Anything new going on?
Just still hot and heavy in harvest. We've been blessed with some great weather to get the crops out. And
is it looking good this year?
It is. It's been good so far.
So I think last time we talked about some issues you had, like in 2014, I believe, is what you said stuff. And I was going to ask you then, and it slipped my mind, so I've been waiting for you to get back on to ask you. Did COVID mess with y'all too much in the farming business? Did that?
Not much. Maybe just some maybe ordering parts, stuff like that. A delay in some of that, but. For the most part, no, and I mean we didn't go anywhere. We were, I guess you could say.
Did the prices fluctuate a whole lot that year and stuff?
It wasn't that bad that year.
That bad?
Yeah.
So you've had worse
Yeah.
things happen than
Yeah.
COVID. So I didn't really know how that affected farming and stuff, because I know a lot of stuff shut down.
Oh, absolutely.
Everywhere, all kinds of
Everywhere
stuff.
shut
Well, they
down.
had us scared to death,
They did.
And the church is closed, and
Yeah.
I know you know how I feel about this. I'll talk about it, but we didn't know what was going to happen. We didn't know, I was working at the sheriff's office then, and they kind of had us scared to death about how many people were going to be dying, and
Right.
had some elderly people in the church, and we closed the doors, and I still preached every week, did on a video or on YouTube or Facebook Live or something like that. But man, I think I've made the decision that we ain't doing that again.
Right.
I'm gonna trust the Lord a lot more this time than I
Right.
did last time, and I don't know that anything will cause me to shut the doors of the church again. So we've struggled. It's been 5 years, and we're still not back to where we were before the shutdown and COVID and stuff. So anyway, I was curious about that. So I know we've talked in between the episodes when you were here last. We found out we had something in common, some issues with family that we had in common, and my father's passed away and a year or so ago, and had dementia, and was having some like mini strokes and stuff. And your grandma went through that. So you comfortable talking about
Yeah.
some of the things
Yeah.
like that? So tell me the story of your grandma and what happened, and how it affected you, and how the
Yeah,
Lord worked in
I
it.
never noticed it too much. We could tell 2012 when my granddad passed. I know my dad and uncle could tell that things had changed with her. And I noticed it around 2014 that her mind was not what it used to be, and it affected me a lot. But I made a point to always go see her. It got to the point where my dad and I would go make coffee for her, and he was cooking her breakfast, supper
Was
at
she
night.
living at home?
She was still living at home, and that's one thing I can say is.
And y'all kind of lived. You lived
my
close to
dad
her.
lived closer to her than I did,
yeah.
but I made that point to go see her, and I told myself, who knows how long I'll have with her, but she forgot she was a great cook, like a lot of grandmothers were, and I mean, she forgot how to do something as simple as make a gallon of tea, and it just breaks your heart, but she always would thank me, and well, let me do something for you, and she I said, no, I've ate so many meals. She cooked for us every day,
on the
and,
farm.
yeah,
She would bring you
did.
lunch and stuff.
We
yeah.
we would go home, and
Yeah.
she would have lunch every day, and I ate so many meals there, and she was a big part in molding me in who I am, along with my parents, because I looked up to her and my granddad, and it broke my heart to see her go through that, but I told myself I'm always going to go see her because I don't want her to forget who I am, and we put her in assisted living, and that was the hardest thing on me. I drove her out there, and they were my dad and uncle went behind us, and she would get combative, but after they got some medicine regulated, she just had the sweetest disposition like she always did. But to see the confusion on her face and the changes that were coming, I mean, it broke my heart. The day we dropped her off, that broke my heart big time.
Did you say? I thought I heard you say. Did it get to the point where she didn't know who you was?
No, she never forgot. I would call her
was.
by name. I would say hi, Meemaw, and she always would call me by name.
Yeah.
She never forgot who we were. She forgot some people, but she didn't forget the family, and that's a tremendous blessing. And
It kind of reminds me of a story I heard one time. It's, a man and wife. The wife had dementia and was in the assisted living, and her husband, they'd been married like 60 years or so. They're in their 80s, and he'd go by every day and see her, and she didn't know who he was. And finally, one of the nurses there asked him, said, "Why do you come every day? She doesn't even know who you are." And he said, "Yeah, honey, but I still know who she is." Mm-hmm. And that just kind of set with me. But my dad was going through some dementia, and he always knew who we were. I think he was confused sometimes because we looked older than what he was remembering, because he was doing that dating thing where he would go back and be living in the past, and when my son, his grandson, he didn't know who he was. He thought he was one of the older grandsons, because they all kind of look a little bit like, and he would always say, "Why was he here? Why is he doing that?" And it was kind of heartbreaking for my kids. And I guess confession time here. I didn't go as much as I probably should. I was stuck on that thing. I'd heard it my whole life, and then I had to live it. But it's like, you don't lose them just once. It's not. There's some things worse than death. You don't lose them just once. Every time you go and see them, you lose them again. And I just couldn't handle that. And I started reserving myself, pull back, and trying to keep the kids from seeing that. I didn't want their memory of granddad to be that. And sometimes now, looking back, I kick myself. I wished I'd have been like you. Like, I'm going to keep seeing them no matter what. But it was. I guess people grieve different. They handle things different, and it is bad on me. I regret some of it now, but my kids do have a very good memory of Granddad, and I hold that dear to my heart. But sorry to interrupt, but just anything. But she remembered you, but she was forgetting things. Did she do that dating thing, like go back?
Yeah, she would. I think she relived earlier years, even when she was a little girl, and would say some of the most off the wall things. But I actually learned a lot of history and things about her childhood, and that she would bring up. But the memory was, it's such an amazing thing. I always wanted to know, what are they actually thinking? And when she was in assisted living, I would go on Sunday afternoons after I ate lunch. That was usually what routine. I would do, my routine, and it was really empty for 2 years afterwards, in which but they would have a small church service out there, and one of the churches in Jonesboro would come out, and they would pass out hymnals, they would sing songs, and then someone would preach a sermon, a little short sermon. Mm-hmm. And you could just see it light up those people's face, and I mean, they just wanted some time, someone to give them attention, you might say, and it just brightened their day. But she asked me one day, she said, "Are you going to go to church with me?" And I said, "Well, sure." I said, "I'll stay." And they passed out the hymnals, and I gave her one, and she had it upside down. She didn't know the page number, but as soon as the music started, she just sung like a bird. She couldn't tell you what day it was, but she knew those songs word for word, and that's a really good memory there.
Had to do your heart good.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
But yeah.
The things that matter most, they got. Dad, he never not knew who Mom was. He always knew who she was. Always knew who we were. Call us by name and and stuff. But I would often sit and just wonder, what's he thinking? What's going on? What's that like to not, and everybody tells you gotta just go along with them. Don't get them upset. Go along, play along with them and stuff. And my mom, bless her heart, she always wanted to correct him, and it was like, you just gotta let him go, let it play along.
Right.
But it's hard. It was hard not to correct him because you wanted him to back to where he was at so bad that you wanted to correct him, and hopefully it's like, Dad he was a fireman, and he was at St. Elizabeth's place, and because he had been falling, he actually fell and broke his hip, and so he was there for physical therapy and stuff like that. But went in one day, and he was upset because he in his mind he was back working at the fire department, and nobody was telling him what to do, and he was at work drawing a paycheck and wasn't working for it. And in his day and age, you didn't work, you didn't get paid, and he was so upset to ask him if he needed some help because it sounded like the kind of job I was looking for, to get paid to do nothing. And he thought that was funny, and we laughed, but he was really upset. And one thing about it, I got to looking at the room he was in, and the day room that they had the TV and the radio and all that kind of stuff in it. He had a recliner in it, just like, and it looked a lot like it, and it was just throwing him back into those times. It was kind of interesting, but yeah, he always knew us. That was a good thing. But so she knew the words to the songs, and
she knew the words to the songs and would sing. And then you would go in her room one Sunday, she would be singing, or someone could start singing a song, she would chime right in, and she always had a really pretty voice. I always enjoyed hearing her sing, but that's a good memory right there that I'm thankful for. But she fell as well and broke her hip there, and she spiraled downhill and didn't last long after that. But
that doesn't take long after that.
But I know we were going to. My daughter had a cheer competition in Hot Springs, and God told me that I needed to probably go by and see her, and so I did, and I go in, and she's sitting in a wheelchair out in that open area, and she looked so bad, but I knelt down in front of her, and they told her she had a visitor, and her eyes glassed over, and they said, "Do you know who this is?" And I called her. I said, "Hi, Mima," like I always would. She said, "Yeah." She said, "That's Heath," And I said my goodbyes that day.
Yeah.
And thanked her for always being a godly example in my life and what she done for me. But so when she passed, I didn't have any regrets.
Yeah.
I was at peace about it. And
it's sometimes, I know I kind of felt this way, and it's hard to say, it's hard to put it in words, but I almost felt relief when Dad passed, because it was over with now. He didn't have to go through that. He wasn't suffering in his mind, and we didn't have to see that anymore. It was kind of selfish, but did you kind of that? I mean, you had your peace, you talked to your, but it's like, whew, okay, thank you, Lord, that we didn't have to do another day of this, So, miss them, but good memories.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
There was way more good memories than there were the bad ones, so that's what we hold on to. But couldn't have done that without God. Right. I mean, faith in Him and knowing that He's got a plan. We get that phone call and we're like, oh no, how is this happening? God doesn't get those phone calls, and He doesn't like, oh, how is this happening? He's got it planned out. He knows, and that's a good comfort to know that we serve a God that doesn't change. That He's not surprised about anything. Man, but sometimes I guess you may have too questioned God, why is this happening? Why
I did.
Why can't she? Why can't Dad? Why can't they remember this? Why can't they be at peace? And did she get confused a lot?
She did.
And that's what bothered me the most, I guess, is the unrest that he had, the uneasiness that he had when he couldn't figure something out or stuff, and that was hard. Of course, so your granddad had passed away before that. I had to watch Mom suffer through Dad going through that, and it was hard on her.
It was.
It's hard to watch her do that, but I think she was. They married almost 65 years, I think, 64, I believe, and been together since they were. I think they got married when she turned 18 one day, and they got married the next. And then they dated a few years before that. So it's the only person she'd ever really, loved and been with. And it was hard to watch her go through that. But I think she was relieved too when it was just like, okay, he's at peace now. So anyway, I don't want to speak for anybody, but it's difficult. But thank God that we have a God that loves us and prepares us for some of that stuff and eases us into it, and the long life.
Right.
How old was she?
She was 93, I think.
93. So Dad was 90 or 82. He was 82. So, I was 54, I guess, 54. So I had 54 years with him, and you were, how old were you when she passed?
Let's see, I was probably.
This is your grandmother.
Yeah.
So
48.
Yeah, so you had 48
49.
years with your grandmother and got to see her on a daily basis and stuff. So blessed.
Blessed, absolutely.
Man, we can talk about a mess, but man, there's blessings in messes sometimes. There's some good blessings in the mess sometimes. And so I don't know if I think I've said this on like one of the first podcasts, second podcast. Some they all run together sometimes, but messes are kind of interesting the way God uses them. We'll have a mess, MESS, right? We get a mess, and then once we go through that mess, don't understand it, don't know why it's happening, but once we let it age and it gets older and we look back on it, then you let it age, AGE, and so you got your mess plus the age, and that becomes a message. And God showed me that one day. It was like, I give you a mess, but if you'll let me have it and let it age, I'll turn it into a message. And we can always look back on something that we've gone through and see the message that God had for us, and maybe help somebody else with it. So I don't know, some of y'all out there listening may have a family member that's got dementia, or Dad was having some mini strokes along with it, so that wasn't helping anything. But God's got a plan. He's got a reason, and you just keep trusting Him in it, and it'll work out. So God's got a plan. Did you see the sun shining through the window?
I did.
It's got me lit up right here, so it's kind of interesting. So we're just going to go with it. We're going to let that's God's sunshine that He's got coming through pre-sunset out there. So we're probably should shut the blinds the next time, but hey, this is real. This is real
right.
stuff. So, so y'all been coming to church at Dixie, and so kind of put you on the spot here. Somebody that may out there is looking for a church. Tell them a little bit about Dixie Baptist and why y'all felt led to come here, and why you stayed. What?
Like I said, we went through COVID, and it's just not the same watching it on a screen. There are too many distractions.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if I'm the only one like that, but I found it hard to watch a church service or a sermon on my phone, on a computer. Maybe if I would have went in a closet where there was no other distractions around, but it was tough, and I don't know. I was just wanting to try something different, and prayed about it, and of course God told me, showed me about, I thought, oh yeah, Jamie, I forgot about Jamie. He's up there. I'm going to just go listen to him speak one. Yeah. And but I will say that God uses you week after week, and you preach the word. You don't take parts out. You don't add parts in. You've said numerous times, I really don't want to preach about this, but it's in there.
Yeah.
God put it in there for a purpose, and so it's His word. I've got to preach that. Yeah. And
it's not always pleasant.
No,
it's not always what we want to hear.
But you do what He wants you to do, and
right.
and you know, it's probably the most loving little church I've ever been to.
It's the
you know,
givenest little church I've ever
is.
been a part of, and and the thing about that, Heath, is I've been out here 10 years, so I've seen a lot more than you have, but they give and they give and they give and they say, well, send this much, and someone goes, no, add some add some to it. Okay, and the bank account, we cannot tell it in the bank account. We don't have a lot of money in it. There's not a lot of money in our checking account, but we've written some pretty big sizable checks to help people, to help send places, and you can't even tell it's gone. And I keep telling them, I said, we need to keep trying to outgive God. He just keeps on. But we're going through the book of Luke, and this is the first time. This is crazy. I'm been in the ministry for 28 years this year, so I'm getting close to 30. And it's the first time I've ever just preached the whole book. I always let God give me the message. I was told when I first started, I said, don't study for a message. Let a message come from your study. Well, it's easy to flip that around where you're studying for a message anyway. But going through the scripture, and you're talking about, I don't want to preach this. There's been some things in Luke. It's like, this is not something I want to preach on, but I just do what comes next, and just let God speak through me. And I tell y'all all the time, very seldom, very, very seldom do I preach a message to y'all that God hadn't beat me up with beforehand. And sometimes y'all can tell that I've dealt with it for a while. But anyway, I appreciate those kind of words. But man, if anybody's out there who needs a church, come out and get Dixie Baptist. We're at 6879 Highway 135 North, and it's got a Lake City address. But if you're leaving Lake City, or you're leaving Brooklyn, or you're leaving Paragould, we're right where all three of those highways meet. And so right here on Highway 135. So come give us a try. See if the Lord will speak to you through me. It won't be me speaking to you. I promise you that, y'all. Heath, you know me for a long time. Right. Nobody wants to hear what I got to say. If it's not God inspired, it's just gibberish coming out of my head. So
well, there's been some times, like I mentioned to you earlier, I appreciate you listening to God, and you've told us, you said, I had a message prepared, but God changed my mind on the way to church. And you used to hear that a lot. You don't, not so much anymore, and but God gave you the words to say when you got here, and you just always let God lead.
And I tell you what, that coming from just a person sitting here, I don't like that. It's like, God, are you sure that you want me to preach this Sunday and not next Sunday? Give me a week to prepare, And sometimes He just says, no, this is it. Trust me, I'll give you the words, and He always does. And usually some of the best messages are the ones that you listen to God and let Him tell you what to do. But man, I just I'm not perfect. I mess up, and you've been hear me too. We have confession Sunday sometimes. In my message, I will confess my mess ups. I don't want anybody to think that I walk on water. He called me to preach. He didn't call me to be perfect, Right. Or didn't call me to be perfect. I'm supposed to be, perfect as God's perfect, but I'm not, and I fail. But anyway, we about to run out of time, so I got to ask you that last question, because I know you're prepared for it this time. You were pretty spot on the last time. But favorite Bible verse? Give me a Bible verse.
Yeah, one popped in my head earlier. 1 Corinthians 10:13. There hath no temptation taken you, but such is common to man. But God is faithful, who will not suffer you to be tempted above that you are able. Will with the temptation also make a way to escape, that you may be able to bear it.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's an interesting scripture. That's probably one of the most misquoted scriptures, because people will say, "Oh, the Bible says God won't put on you more than you can handle." That's not what that verse says. He says He won't give you won't be tempted above what you're able. And I did a little study on that one time, a little devotion. I may even preach a message on it one time. But there's a other scripture. Don't know where it's at. It's in there. You'll have to find
in there.
it. I'm famous for that. But it says count or be of good cheer or be happy. Paraphrasing, or be happy when you fall into diverse temptations and stuff. So be happy with that. And I was like, why in the world would I be happy when I'm tempted? Well, you put it with that scripture there, and it says that with every temptation, He's made a way of escape. You're able to overcome it, and He gives you a way of escape. Sometimes that way's through that temptation, but here's the thing: you put those together. Think about this. If God's allowing you to be tempted by it, He knows that you can overcome it, or He wouldn't let you be tempted by it. So now you look at that other one. Be happy when you're tempted, because if God is like, I know you can get through it, so I'm going to allow this temptation because I know you can get through it based on that one in Corinthians. So when you put those two together, it's like we should be happy when we're tempted.
Right.
Boy, I'm not, though.
I'm not.
Because the spirit's willing, but this old flesh is definitely weak. That's another one of my favorite verses.
I like
that. Yeah, man. So back to that. God will put more on you than you can handle. We will go through things that we cannot handle. And why do you think that? Give me your thoughts on that. Why would God put something on us that we couldn't handle, or allow us to go through a situation that we couldn't handle?
Looking back in my life, the times He's done that, it's to, I think it's for perseverance, to build character, to build patience, and then just to remind you when things happen in the future, look where I brought you from. Look what I can do,
So a lot of times, absolutely positively, I've lived that in my life. Sometimes it's to make me trust Him. Because there's times that there's things in my life I cannot handle. I can't handle on my own. It would be the end of me. No, it causes me to lose my hope, causes me to lose my faith, but when I turn to Him and know that I can't handle it, but He can. I got a T-shirt. It says, I can't, but I know a guy.
That's right.
There's lots of things I can't do, but man, I know a guy. And that guy's Jesus Christ, and He gets me through all kinds of things. So, folks, if you just keep your head up, you got some family members, loved ones that are going through dementia, Alzheimer's, strokes, things like that, trust in God. Keep your faith in Him. He's not taken aback by that. He's not shocked by that. He's got a plan, and we just need to trust in Him to go through that. Going through stuff in your life that is too hard to handle, have faith in God. Turn it over to Him. Let Him see you through. Being tempted, smile about it. Devil, you can throw things in my way, but God knows I can get through it. He's got a way for me to escape because He's allowed me to go through it. So that's good stuff, man. That's real life stuff right there. Real life stuff. Hell, Heath, man, we're running out of time. Maybe gone a little over a 30-minute, but hey, it's the podcast God gave me. If He wants me to go 37 minutes, I'll go 37 minutes. You done told Him I listen to God. So, boy, you gave me big shoes to fill. But come out to Dixie Baptist. I promise you, if you get anything out of it, it'll be out of the Bible, not out of my head. And God will speak through me to you. So just give us a try. Heath, I love you, man. Appreciate you coming on. I'm gonna ask that favor of you again. Will you come back on the podcast sometime, and we'll talk about some more scripture, more stuff that God puts in our way or puts in our life and allows us to experience and get through. So, all right. Any final thoughts?
Thank you.
Well, thank you for being here with me and helping me out, and y'all just share the podcast with people. You're going to hear Jesus on here.
Yeah.
My life is nothing without Jesus, and just remember, like the T-shirt I got, I can't, but man, I know a guy. So thank y'all so much for tuning in to this episode of Tearing Through the Roof, the podcast where life gets messy, but friendships get real, and when the door is blocked, we'll find our own way or make our own way to Jesus. So let's go. God bless you.